ज्ञानाञ्जना शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपदान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते नाम्ने नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते शिला भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नाम्ने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशविधिकारिणे मूकं करोति वाचालं भङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनकारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्यमीश्वरम्। हरि हरि. So now we will recite the Bhagavatam prayers and start go to the verse today. So Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudireyet susrusho sraddhadanasya vasudeva kadaruchi syan mahatsevaya vipra punyatirtha nishevanat Shranwadam Sokatha Krishna Punya Sravana Kirtana Hridiyandastho Hyavidrani Vidhuvanoti Sukrutsadam Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki Tadarajastamo Bhava Kamalopadayaste Chedayadiranavidham Sthitam Satve Prasidati एवं प्रसन्नमनसो भगवद्भक्तियोगदा भगवत्तत्त्वविज्ञानं मुक्तसङ्गस्य जायते भिद्यते हृदयग्रन्थि सिद्ध्यते छिद्यन्ते सर्वसंशया क्षीयन्ते चास्य कर्माणि दृष्ट एवात्मनीश्वरे कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दना च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः नमः पंकजनाभाय नमः पंकजमालिने नमः पंकजनेत्राय नमस्ते पंकजाङ्घ्रिये। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. So today we will read Canto 2, Chapter 10, Text 18. So let me share the screen. Wow, where is it? Text 18, 22, 10, 18. Yeah. Okay, so to here. 2, 10, 18. Okay. So let's read the verse. Mukhatastalu nirpinnam jikva tatropajayate tato nanaraso jajne jikvayayo adhigavyate. So one more time. Mukhatastalu nirpinnam jikva tatropajayate tato nanaraso jajne jikvayayo adhigavyate. And word by word meanings. Mukhata, from the mouth. Talu, the palate. Nirpinnam, being generated. Jihva, the tongue. Tatra, thereupon. Upajayate, becomes manifested. Tada, thereupon. Nana rasa, various days. Jatne, became manifested. Jihvaya, by the tongue. Ya, which adhigamyate, become relished. Translation and purport by Stephen Geshe Prabhupada ki jai. From the mouth, the palate became manifested, and thereupon the tongue was also generated. After this, all the different tastes came into existence so that the tongue can relish them. Purport. This gradual process of evolution suggests the explanation of the controlling deities, Adhideva, because Varuna is the controlling deity for all relishable juices. Therefore, the mouth becomes the resting place for the tongue, which tastes all the different juices, of which the controlling deity is Varuna. This suggests, therefore, that Varna was also generated along with the development of the tongue. The tongue and the palate, being instrumental, are adhibhutam, or forms of matter. But the functioning deity, who is a living entity, is adhideva, whereas the person undergoing the function is adhyatma. Thus, the three categories are also explained as to their birth after the opening of the mouth of the Virat Purusha. The four principles mentioned in this verse serve to explain the three main principles, namely the Adhyatma, Adhideva, and Adhibhuta, as explained before. So, by way of introduction, we can just recall Gadadhar Chandra Prabhu giving a very nice recap of the 10th chapter, beginning verses, starting with the 10 topics covered in Srimad Bhagavatam onwards. And now we are verses 17 to 30. It's explaining the creation process. That is the creation procedure. So the Jiva soul has a desire, and the desire leads to the creation of the gross organ for enjoyment, and also the subtle organ, and deity controlling that sense appear simultaneously. And then the object of the sense also is created. So in actually the in describing the Virat form, the universal form in Canto 3 also, it's very similar. That is creation of the universal form 3:6:13. It says, when the palette of the gigantic form was separately manifested, Varuna, the director of water in the planetary systems, entered therein, and thus living entity has the facility to taste everything with his tongue. So it is the sequence in which these sense organs are created. For the sense organ and the body of the living entity, both are Adhibhautiga, that is, they consist of matter. But the controlling deity for that sense, he is Adhideva. And the subtle sense, which exists in the Virat form, that is also transcendental, not like our material sense. And then Adi Bhutam, Adi Deva, and Adhyatma. Adhyatma is the living entity, actually, who is the cause of the conditioned soul's material body. According to Lord Kapila's teachings, in Canto 3, it says, 326.8, verse number 8. The cause of the conditioned soul's material body and senses, and the senses presiding deities, the demigods, is the material nature. This is understood by learned men. The feelings of happiness and distress of the soul, who is transcendental by nature, are caused by the spirit soul himself. So this is like Bhagavad Gita 13:22. Purusham prakatistohi bhungde prakritijan guna karanam guna sangosya sadasas yoni janmas. That because the living entity enjoys the ways of life and associate with the modes of nature, associating with the modes of nature, that results in his getting a certain type of body in the sadasat yonis. That is, he may go to a next set of parents depending on his activities. So the cause itself is Adhyatma, and then Adhideva is the Devata, and Adhibhutam is the material body of the in which the living soul, the soul is entrapped. So so we can see that one after other, and simultaneously the sense and sense devata appears, and so we have seen, we will see in Canto 3, Canto 2 actually, no, Canto 3, 630, yeah. So in 6th chapter, the gigantic form and how the various senses and appear and all that. So so here the tongue, the palate, and it is the that enables the living entity to enjoy all kinds of relish, all kinds of rasas, tastes. So in Nectar of Instruction, verse 1, we will read a little bit about how Jihva, the tongue, is the center of the first verse. So we will go to that one a little bit. Yeah, read from there. So Vajo Vegam Manasa Krodha Vegam Jihva Vegam Udaropasta Vegam Yedan Veganyo Vishakeda Thira Sarvamabhima Prithvimja Shishyat. That is, a sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals. He is qualified to make disciples all over the world. So we decide for this kind of body, and we are in this body, but we know that it is not total enjoyment. There is also distress. Sometimes distress is much higher than what little happiness we experience in this human form. So we are seeking that path by which we can get out of this cycle of birth and death situation. But God has given us this instrument, how to transfer our sense of enjoyment to dovetail with his for his pleasure, for the Supreme Lord's pleasure, and how we can develop a higher taste. That is the whole message of the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavad. So, we have seen how the sense of sight, and that has already been covered, and how the sun god is the and the devata associated with the sense of sight, everything. So in this nectar of instruction, we must, so everything in spiritualizing our senses, ourself. Srila Prabhupada says, just like the iron rod that is placed in fire becomes as good as fire. Similarly, the material senses, when they are engaged in the service of the Lord, who is the proprietor of the senses, Rishikena Rishikesh Sevana, then the living entity becomes completely spiritualized or transformed, and he becomes as good as liberated, Jivan Mukta. He attains his eternal Swarupa form like this through this practice. So one must control his speaking power. Every one of us has the power of speech, which is the supreme function, one of the supreme function of the tongue. As soon as we get an opportunity, we begin to speak. If we do not speak about Krishna consciousness, we speak about all sorts of nonsense. A toad in a field speaks by croaking, and similarly, everyone who has a tongue wants to speak, even if all he has to say is nonsense. The croaking of the toad, however, simply invites the snake death. So, similarly, engaging our senses in prajalpa, that is unwanted talk, that is simply the senses are a path to death. When we say prasadam prayers, it is a network to the path of death. So we have to but neither is the way of keeping silent like the impersonalists do. Observe mauna, that is not the right path either, because we have to engage the senses, the positive process of Krishna Katha, engaging the speaking process in glorifying the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. The tongue can thus glorify the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord. The preacher of Krishna Katha is always beyond the clutches of death. This is the significance of controlling the ears to speak. And then the taste, that is, so the tongue is so supreme actually in our in the body's functions. The taste, so we should that is instead of eating all kinds of nonsense foods, we should eat only Krishna prasadam, sanctified food. That because the prasada means mercy of the Lord. So that way, Sandha Muchate Sarva Kilbishai, just by eating prasadam, the saintly devotees. So, simply by eating, we can be purified. So, then, so much can be said on this. That is why prasadam is so important in it's Krishna consciousness, important part of spiritual life, and so we should only eat Krishna prasadam, because we'll see one second. So, Narada Muni's definition of bhakti itself, Sarvopadi Vinirmukta Tatparatvena Nirmala Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchade. Because Krishna is the proprietor of the senses, he is the proprietor of this body. So when this body will be utilized for Krishna's service, that is our perfection of life. From Bhagavad Gita lecture by Srila Prabhupada. It says, I wanted a certain type of body to use it for my sense gratification. He has given it, and I am not happy. Therefore, I shall learn how to use this machine for the proprietor. This is called bhakti. Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchade. That is Chaitanya Charita Madhya Leela 19.170. Because Krishna is the proprietor of the senses, he is the proprietor of this body. So when this body will be utilized for Krishna's service, that is our perfection of life. So, this is the basic teachings on which we are, the Krishna. Krishna consciousness, basic teachings of a Krishna conscious life, and then what is the teachings of Bhagavatam? Bhagavatam says, Nigama kalpa taror galidam bhalam shuka mukha amrita drava samyutam pibata Bhagavatam rasamalayam muhura ho resika bhuvi bhavuga. That is, the living entity senses are not for tasting this food or that food. For him, the juice is the Bhagavatam itself, Bhagavad Kathamrita, which is tasted by the greatest of sages, Shuka Muni, and therefore made sweeter. So Bhagavatam is saying, now enjoy the Sukha Mukha, the Amrita Drava Samyuta. See this fruit, the fruit of the Vedic tree, which is made sweetened by it, by the tasting of Shuka Muni. So you enjoy that, all of you Resikas. So our body is not for made for this material enjoyment. We have a higher taste. We can acquire this higher taste, and that is wherein the success and the goal of human life. So Krishna is the ultimate, and we can engage our senses in like Aruta Mataji was saying in the class the other day, just this 1 year, 1 sense, ear, we can capture of the Lord in the heart by hearing properly. And then by the tongue, we can glorify the Lord. We can taste the Krishna Prasada. So that is where the human, from all other animals, kingdom, we are, this is what distinguishes the human species, because they can connect with the immortality through the proper use of their senses, recognizing that this body is an instrument for God realization. So, Lord has said in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, Rasoham apsu kaunteya prabhasmi shashi sureyo pranavam sarva vedeshu shabdakhe paurusham nrano. So, I'm the taste of water. So even the simple activity of drinking something, we can remember Krishna. He is the taste of water. And then so we can connect with Krishna. We can develop that higher taste. Param drashtva nivartade. That is having acquired that higher taste, all these lower activities of the sense of enjoyment, we we are able to put it behind. And then one more thing I wanted to say. So we have been always ending the class almost every day with our no, sorry, Ambarish Maharaja's kirtan, that is glorifying Ambarish Maharaj, who engaged all his senses in the service of the Lord. But today when I was looking for this, 1 second, Lord Brahma's prayers, and yeah, Lord Brahma's prayers, in Canto 10, text 14, chapter 14, he's saying in text 33, yet even though the extent of the good fortune of this residence of Vrindavana is inconceivable, we 11 presiding deities of the various senses, headed by Lord Shiva, are also most fortunate, because the senses of these devotees of Vrindavana are the cups through which we repeatedly drink the nectarian intoxicating beverage of the honey of your lotus feet. So the devotees of Krishna, the Brajavasis, they are transcendental. And even the demigods get a taste of the honey of the lotus feet of Krishna through their senses. So imagine a pure devotee of the Lord. It is said that in the case of Surdas, who was a blind poet, he was born blind and he was neglected by his family. Being a blind boy, what he was, and then he was crying on the banks of the Yamuna. I just happened to read this story in the course of preparing. And then Vallabhacharya came in contact with him, and he said, "Why you are crying?" And then he said, "See, I'm blind. My family has turned me out." And so Vallabhacharya just touched him, it seems. And then he had the sight of, he was able to see Krishna, and he got the kind of a flash of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavana by the touch of the saint. So then, if we research, we see Surdas was so prolific. He has written lakhs of verses glorifying Krishna, and it is said that Krishna used to come and personally be there in front of him while he was singing the Lord's glories. So such is the power of a pure devotee of the Lord. Here, Lord Brahma, I felt like reading the entire chapter 14 when I was. Lord Brahma is saying, those who have received the clear vision of knowledge from the sun-like spiritual master, can see you in this way as the very soul of all souls, the super soul of everyone's own self. Thus, understanding your original personality, they are able to cross over the ocean of illusory material existence. So it is really, when we are in the association of very saintly persons like the spiritual master, we are purified simply by being in their glance. So what to speak of, enjoying the remnants of prasadam offered to them, etc. So so Lord Brahma says, unlimited Lord, the saintly devotees seek you out within their own bodies by rejecting everything separate from you. Indeed, how can discriminating persons appreciate the real nature of a rope lying before them until they refute the illusion that it is a snake. That is, Vishya Vinivartante Niraharasya Dehina Rasavarjam Resopyasya Parandrashta Nivartate. That is, first we have to see that the unwanted, we have to be able to reject the unwanted and then slowly cultivate a taste for the pure or the spiritual. And then slowly we develop our taste for enjoying the spiritual. So I think we are already 2 minutes past. I will stop here. Please bear with me for whatever mistakes I have spoken. And thank you for being here. And any comments or questions, I would try to see if I can. Okay. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru and Gauranga.
Thank you, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances to all glories to
Mataji, wonderful talk today morning. Very inspiring. You touched upon so many topics, including, that verse from Nectar of Instructions, and how our senses are all dragging us in different ways. And if we don't control it, it becomes a huge problem.
Yes.
So one thing that came to my mind while you were speaking that is, because we don't control our tongue, in today's world, people do abominable things. For example, there is this dish that some of the restaurants serve, which is called, the bird nest soup, which is basically a nest built by a bird using its saliva. They boil it and they make a soup out of it, And that is nothing when compared to, the whale's vomit. The whale's vomit is one of the costliest food available.
Wow.
People pay millions of dollars to buy a pound of whale's vomit.
I'm hearing first time, Prabhu.
Yeah, Mataji. These are all facts, and these are all, this is why Prabhupada says godless civilization.
Yes.
We go after searching sense, what do you say, the gratification, and we don't even realize what sort of abominable things we do.
Yes.
So actually yesterday I was reading, 3rd canto, 5th chapter, the first 5 verses. The second one caught my eye. Vidura is asking Maitreya how to mitigate distress in this world. Everyone is engaged in fruitive activities or karma for happiness, but they find neither happiness, which is sukham, nor satiation of detachment. Rather, they increase their suffering, dukkham.
Yes.
So he's asking Sage Maitreya, please give the direction for real happiness.
Yes.
So,
thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Yes, I mean, we have, we cannot even tolerate hearing the menu items served in so many so-called restaurants, and I mean, we cannot even hear those things. I think it is so abominable. Srila Prabhupada saying, but then Bhagavatam is so merciful. It says, even the dog eaters, specifically in Mother Devahuti's prayers, she says, even, just uttering the name of the Lord, even the dog eaters, Chandala, is qualified to perform Vedic sacrifices. I mean, this is the ultimate mercy that is there in front of the world, which Srila Prabhupada has brought out and put it, everybody take it, that is amazing mercy. Imagine. So, and it is unthinkable how the slaughterhouses and so many things happening in this world. I mean, it's very, very, we cannot even go and, enter that. Before, when I used to be at work and all, I used to go with lunch out and all that. they're beautiful restaurants and all, but you get in there and you get that, you first of all your nose reacts. I mean, it's so difficult to call those places restaurants, eating places. My goodness, it's so difficult. Hare Krishna, this place is so difficult. And the name of I mean, the listless targeting of women by so-called men, women's body, how they are, women are how, you know, abused to the, actually we cannot read news in uh, any website. It's the same story all over the world. So how the human becomes such a devil because of his unrestricted sense enjoyment, and how Srila Prabhupada has tried to rescue this world, even in this Kali Yuga. Hare Krishna. Anybody
Thank you,
else?
Mataji.
Anybody else want to add something?
Krishna Mataji. Somebody else was speaking.
No, you can go ahead.
Okay, Mataji. Yeah, thank you for this discussion. I just remember this. I think it was Nityanand Prabhu. He gave a seminar on these 4 regulative principles of freedom.
Yeah.
At the very beginning of my Krishna consciousness, I was hearing that. I was like, freedom? This seems like restriction. Why nobody's calling freedom? I was thinking, this discussion really made it so clear. I mean, we take it for granted, like, okay, mechanically following the, rules and regulations.
Yeah.
But how we are so saved, as you're talking, one aspect is, I mean, can't even imagine the abominableness, how much it's, deep, the depth of it.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I'm really, really appreciating what Srila Prabhupada and his followers are doing.
Yes.
So effortlessly they are saving us. I mean,
Yes.
I was like super, feeling so grateful.
Yes, one feels so grateful, and if we can do anything to help this movement flourish, that's the invaluable help that we can
Right,
do
Mataji.
in this
And
life.
the other thing you were mentioning about the sense control, I had this experience. You were saying when you were quoting this, I know verse 1, one way is controlling the senses, like, okay, really restricting and not using it, as you're quoting impersonalist, right? So for some time, I actually tried that. Like, I keep speaking, whether it's needed or not. Continuously, my tongue has to speak. So I was like, I mean, I have a completely contrasting example right in my house. Down Prabhu, he doesn't even open his mouth. I mean, of course, he speaks when it is necessary, but, no unnecessary speech at all. So I was like, one day I decided, what am I doing? Okay, I should be like him. I should really practice. Even when I, have that urge, I should really control and practice. I actually did for like 2 weeks, but I was so miserable because I was not myself. I was like, like somebody else. So I said, this is not the way. So I can be myself, whatever, our natures or our gifts or however, I connect to devotees and other people by talking and sharing and whatnot. And maybe different people have different way of connection. So that's perfectly all right. So, I got this realization and I said like, okay, I don't have to artificially restrict myself.
Thank you very much for sharing. Thank you very much for sharing.
Engage in just talking about the devotees and about Krishna instead of all other gods.
Yes.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Yes, it is always, it's a gradual process. I mean, from here to there, it may take us several years, several lifetimes. We don't know, but as long as we try to serve spiritual masters sincerely, we are sure to be successful. So that is not easy process at all, but he is very merciful. So he allows everybody to kind of slowly approach that destination. So it's already 11 past. Maybe we can stop here. Lakshmikant Prabhu.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Vancha Kalpatarubhya Kripa Sindhubhya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Have a great